Nuisance finding this train in Reading because the platform I needed was 4 and it counted 1, 2, 3, 7 and the geography of this place is insane. Look at this. The map on the hotel website said the hotel's on the other side of the street, so I've been walking down there, full length of the street. There's this metal fence thing, so you can't just cross the road to get from where I thought the hotel was to over here where the hotel actually is. You have to go either all the way up there or all the way down there to get down to a bloody underpass. Also, look at this. Restriction, safety, totally authoritarian, antithetical to what I believe. Grr. So where am I? Well, this is Bracknell, not Scotland, although kind of addicted to Iron Brew recently. I have some personal connections to Bracknell, and also the surrounding towns of Bracknell is War of the Worlds country. So I'm hoping to see if I can get to Woking, where Horsell Common is, where War of the Worlds begins, as I'm a little bit of a fan for that kind of world, H.G. Wells and Jeff Wayne's world. And yeah, my nan lived in her old house in Bracknell, so we always used to come up and visit her here. So I'm gonna do a kind of walk up to there where she lived and get a few kind of shots of the area, some film of that kind of place around where we lived, and I'll probably tell you about a few things that I remember from that time. I have different memories, I think, from my family of what it was like to live there. So lots of things occurred to me this past year that reminded me of that place, and I thought maybe I'll document that sort of thing because it holds some kind of meaning for me, I guess. And I think if I don't get it out of my head and document it or tell someone, then it's just going to be in my head forever, and I kind of want that expressed. Do a little walk around Bracknell, I'll do a few clips of that. I'll try and get to Woking. I was actually thinking of trying to do a huge 16-mile hike from Bracknell to Woking through Bracknell Forest, but I think that might be a bit overblown, so we'll see what it's like. I'm here for 2 nights. I've got a full day tomorrow, so I might possibly do that tomorrow or attempt it. If not, I'll just go to Bracknell Forest and have a walk around. It seems like an interesting area. I think this is probably the wrong time of year to go there, but hopefully I'll see some snowdrops or something. But you know, most of the greenery is decidedly not out, so I'll be walking through a very wintry woods. I could probably get from Bracknell to Bagshot, but getting from Bagshot and working out, because there's so much private, it's quite urban around here, it's very urban. I've just seen Reading railway station. It's like a fortress. It's the most gigantic thing. It's like an airport. It's a surprisingly enormous structure. I kind of liked it in a way, but yeah, it's way too big. It makes me actually wonder what's in Reading. But that's not what I'm here for. However, I might go to Windsor because I saw the Long Walk and it interested me, and I thought I might be able to get some cool shots of that, because it is like this from Windsor Castle, there's this very, very long straight path lined on either side with what looks like oaks, and I think it ends with a hill with a statue on it. And I just thought, firstly I could get a bunch of cool shots, because when you zoom in with camera on a big long straight path with people moving back and forth, the focus is really good. So I thought I might do something like that. B, I thought when I was looking at this on, Google Street View and stuff, this would be the most epic place for a cyclist, just to go down that long walk, full speed on a bike. You would have a great cycle, I think. And sorry, I've just seen something. In my hotel, there's a little sign they've put up saying, "Be ready for the day of a cardiac arrest." Look at this shit. Don't take the COVID vaccine and you won't have to worry about that. Anyway, Jesus fucking Christ. And there's a guy doing CPR on a pillow. What the fuck? Actually, when I was in Reading train station, I was walking up, I was trying to find the fucking platform 4. You may have seen a clip of that. If not, I'll insert it right here. I was trying to get to platform 4, and I was like, where the fuck? Because it was like a geographic nightmare. It was a gigantic station with a million platforms, and I finally found platform 1 and started counting, and it went 1, 2, 3, 7. I was like, what the fuck? And then you go to end of platform 7, and it says 4 cars only on the railway, and I didn't understand what that meant, and I had to ask an orderly or whatever, a staff member guy, why does it say platform 7 brackets 4 for cars or something? And he's like, no, platform 4's the entire other end. He had to ask another colleague actually to find out, which is dumb. But platform 4 was the entire other end from 1, 2, and 3. God damn it. Anyway, get to my point about CPR. I walked to platform 4, and off to the right of me I could see an office. You're looking down through a glass window on loads of office workers and their desks, like the first scenes of The Matrix. There's all these sad souls in their boring office, or watch Office Space, the movie. It was like that on one window, and then another window, it's just a big clean room with empty carpet, and there's just a woman lying on the floor with a bottle of water, and another woman staff member just towering over her looking at her. What the fuck? I couldn't work out what was going on. I think someone was resting from a panic attack or something, but it looked like someone died and another person was standing over them or something. But the water bottle made me think, no, I don't think they have keeled over. Anyway, the Long Walk in Windsor. I'm gonna try and do that. There was another place, which is actually at the end of Heathrow Airport, below the end where the planes take off, sort of further on from that. Called Raysbury Fishing Lakes, and there's loads of lakes and stuff there, but because it's such an urban area, you can't plan your route like you plan it for Dartmoor. So I was looking at ordnance survey maps, looking for dotted lines and things where you could, as a pedestrian, get from A to B, and I thought I found one dotted line that was, this is a perfect pedestrian walkway to get to where I want to go around Raysbury Fishing Lakes. And I thought, just out of curiosity, I put a Street View man down, and it was the end of a housing estate, and it said, private lane, do not go in. I'm like, what? It literally was a small stretch of path that connected an entire circuit around the lake that I could have done. I was like, for fuck's sake. So I was thinking of going there. Also, there's only one bridge across the Thames in the area where you need it to get from Windsor and the Long Walk, I think it's called Albert Bridge, over to the area where Raysbury Fishing Lakes is. And also the photos I saw of this place made it look really good because it was on a sunny day, and it's decidedly cloudy for the next 2 or 3 days. I don't think I'll get any sunshine, but fingers crossed. So, I'm not sure which of those I'm going to do today. I'll either do a brief visit of my nan's house area, so I can do a talk through vid here. I'm also going to use this time in the hotel to do some writing stuff, and maybe I'll do a Massacre of Mankind chapter, maybe I won't. Chapter review. Work on my lame novels that I'm doing. Try and get some of that done. And then tomorrow I think, well, today I might also do the Windsor thing. It depends. When's it get dark? I think it gets dark more around 5 o'clock now, possibly, or 6 o'clock. So might get a couple of hours to do that. Tomorrow I'll try and do, I'll begin the big hike as if I'm gonna do the big hike to Woking. Anyway, it's a weird area for someone to pick to go on a trip. I'm aware lots of people just live around here and think, oh, why'd you visit here? Oh, I don't understand. But maybe those people don't have the memories that I have of living here, and maybe those people haven't read War of the Worlds, because when you read that novel, so many of the places around here are just named in that novel. It's like a really good jump around geography thing. It's like Send, Byfleet, Leatherhead, Woking, all these places are just, Sunbury, all these places are just named, Chobham, in the book, and he's literally name dropping places 1,000 times a chapter or something. I am exaggerating, but that's what it feels like. So you're like, well, I've always, because I'm a bit of a nut for that series, I'm always like, what are these places? What would it be like? Is it even possible to jump from place to place in non-Victorian times, by walking? I think in Victorian times people would actually just be able to walk around between the places and there wouldn't be obstructions and shit. But I think because everything's so urban now and everything's modern bullshit, lots more private land, lots more cars and roads and stuff, it's a lot harder for pedestrians to hike between towns the closer you get to London, basically, and Birmingham. So, we shall see. I think there's an old folly, and there's also what looks like a military firing range, which I can't go into, at the bottom of Bracknell Woods, which I'll have to go around. There's a place called Donkey Town. I don't know why. And Lightwater. And yeah, I want to get the sand pits in Horsell Common, so if I can't get there by walking, maybe I'll get there by bus or something, I don't know. Alright folks. Ooh. Okay, so it's going to be a geographical challenge to start with. A lot of map reading and trying to find my way around what is close to being a city. I'm not sure if Bracknell's a city or a town, but there's a lot of monstrous buildings around here. So first job is the underpass maze. I've got to get underneath 3 roundabouts somehow. I think this is meant to be a monument or something, but I just mistook it for some mud in the grass. Very good. I think they painted the underpasses because there's so many underpasses. Out of one into another. There's this thing here, Lexicon. I think that's like a shopping mall. Saw it on my way in. There it is. Train station, which for some reason has a skyscraper frontage to it. I don't know why. And a bus station, and then this Lexicon thing. So there's a map. Where is the bus station? That is the railway station. I think in the foreground is the bus station. I was going to go to Windsor, but we go from here. I think I've taken a slightly longer route though, so I still need to get down a few roundabouts. So, we're on the second roundabout. We need to go straight ahead for Bag Shop, but I assume underneath it in the subways. There wasn't a series of underpasses that time. I had to do a bunch of crossings around to get to this side, which was unexpected. And I'm on the right side of the road, so the next roundabout I won't even have to cross. Urban exploring, the bad kind. Some of this though. Bracknell, I don't know if Surrey is all like this, but Bracknell has a certain look to it, and you get a little bit of that here. That's a bit weird. Past a kebab van thing there, it smelled really nice. Damn. And over there's a Kafka. Down there. What's going on there? Is that orange? Saw some of these weird yellow brick buildings from the train. They're quite characterful actually. It reminds me of Bath stone, but it's not. These skies are looking stormy as fuck. Hope I don't get rained on, but there's a lot of this going on. There's a lot of holes in brickwork walls in patterns and things, and then there's a lot of houses through the trees. It's not a very beautiful example of it. Maybe I'll try and find you one. So that's the leisure centre there. Over there's a big field, and just off to the side here is where it is. There's a big field outside. So my nan used to live in that house there, so we used to come and visit her up here. And then for a time we actually lived in the house. Can't quite remember what happened there. I think my nan had gone away for a bit and kind of left the house to us for a bit. These trees up here seemed denser when we lived here. Maybe we stayed more during summertime, I'm not quite sure. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it, when you experience familiar geography and nostalgia for a place you used to live like years ago. I can say that for a lot of the different places that I've been to. A lot of the different houses I've lived in are a bit like that place in my mind. Got lots of little memories to them, which I'm sure I'll discuss later on. Used to walk up that way with my dad to get to, I think it was an Asda supermarket or something, and then up this way there's at the end of this street, it's kind of like a hill like that, and there's a woodsy park there, which I think is more wooded when we lived here, like many places actually, than now. If I talk to you ever about Kelowna in Canada, that place is just completely forested when we lived there, and now there's hardly any of it. Really serene estate right now. It's actually quite calming to be here, and there's so much about the look that's very familiar. Here's more of these weird things they keep doing with the brick walls around here. They do little shape cutouts and then they do little shape jut outs. There's definitely something distinctive about the houses and the trees that I don't see at all living in Devon, like anywhere, and maybe a different time of year would bring it out a bit better. So you're getting a very second-hand nostalgia to me. You're probably watching me thinking, So what is this all about? But there's, yeah, just certain places you've lived in your life. If you look back to places you've lived a long time ago, if you revisited them, you'd kind of be like, oh wow, like a bunch of memories just like hitting me. There's that yellow stone again on Water Road. Some of these street names don't ring a bell really. I think there's a little track there which takes us to this woodsy bit back here. I think there's a park. Yeah, I'm gonna try and get through up the top here. There's like purple. It's not just yellow bricks. It's even weirder than that. There's like yellow and purple bricks here. Don't want to look like I'm annoying anyone, but these houses, yeah, it's just the buildings are actually part of the memory. They're very interesting kinds of houses. Here is this, the bit that has there's a pedestrian footpath back here somewhere. I don't know if it's this one or one of these higher estates. Yeah, I think this might be it actually. Or it's one of them anyway. Rapley's Green. So I'm hoping there'll be a little bit of a park here. Maybe not an amazing one, but... is there a park? I think that track's the track I'd need to take to get to the Bracknell Forest tomorrow if I go. Yeah, I think that takes you quite a ways to the south edge. Yeah, what's public, what's private? I think they're referring to that bit actually behind the sign, to be fair. But, yeah. Oh, look at that tree. I think they've cropped it. It used to be grander. You sort of see where they've cut it up there. I think this bit, I mean, you know, what's public and what's private argument all over again, but I think this is a public park. I'll have to remember this bit where I came in. Yeah, we've got a bit of a duck pond. Some of these houses literally look out onto the park, which is pretty cool on one side. Now I'm backed out onto it. What is that grass there? It's bright orange and red. There's some amazing grass going on there. What the hell? I haven't brought any bread. I haven't got any loaf, man. In Branscombe's loaf, I didn't have a loaf. I'm at Duck Pond in Bracknell, and I don't have a loaf. What is going on? If this year is teaching me anything, it's that I need to bring a loaf of bread on every trip. Or something. Oh, so another memory's hitting me. I think Nan took us to feed the ducks quite a lot, so just that smell of cold bread that you get out of a bag, that smell of the breadcrumbs just before you feed it to the ducks on a cold day, and then this kind of the look of these little waterways that are all around here. There are ducks, trust me. Let's find a duck. There we go. Oh no, it's not a duck, that's a Canada goose, man. It's a Canada goose. There's some ducks. Good. There's me talking about Canada and we got a Canada goose right there. Oh, we got lichen. Yellow lichen. Oh, you lichen. So far. Is this a weir or just like the edge of a little reservoir thing? Oh, it seems to be draining away down there. This is so close to my nan's home. We must have come here as kids. It's so close. This might be as close to nature as they get out here in Bracknell, apart from the forests. So it's nearly 4 o'clock. I think it gets dark at 6 around now. It's like 5:30 or 6. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to make the Windsor trip today. It might have to be tomorrow. We'll have to see. Yeah, it's probably not enough time before it gets dark to do that one. I think actually I'm looking down there. See this track that goes all the way around the pond or something? I think this whole area is like an island surrounded by roads, so I might actually just walk down that way and then come back through the estates, get some views for today. I think someone had the right idea here. There were two women feeding the geese here and the ducks. Oh, there's an odd duck here. What kind of duck's that? Not these ones. Can't remember those. Could be a moorhen, could be a coot. There's a different kind of... is that a duck or a goose? There's another one there. Weird giant building there. Yeah, try and take some paths that takes me back into the estate. Look at that tall one there. A big trunk as well. Yeah, it's a weird feeling not being able to fully express or describe just what it is about the atmosphere or look of a place that is kind of unique, like this place. Also, I love these. See that diamond frame window things or whatever, diamond embossed windows. It would be cool to have a house with those all over it. These are like rose hips or something there. Rose hips, you got that weird fruity plant thing on them. Also like things like this and the kind of wall there, just like you wouldn't see them many places in Devon, that's all I'm saying. And the trees, definitely not. Let's try this way. I don't know, man, maybe I have to have lived in it for it to affect you. I could tell similar stories about my time living in Cyprus as a kid, or my time living in Spain. Like, there's all these places we go. They do have distinctive looks to them and differences that I think we should acknowledge. Am I in a cul-de-sac? Have I gone the wrong way? Can I not get through down here? Dude, I don't think that's a path. Wait, is that a path? There might be a path, actually. There might be a path. Ooh! Yeah, I can go around this bit. Ah! Yes! Look at this! Just because there's a big tree here in an estate, they have to put a sign like this. Like, nanny state, safety, authoritarianism, like everywhere you go. It's funny, I started talking about how evil signs were and how they announced that you were under control by the government when I was in Dawlish. Look at these weird... It does have a distinctive look to it, my dudes. Yeah, I was in Dawlish just before the whole, I'm not going to say the wrong words here, lockdown thing happened. Talking about all the things that the lockdown was. Should I go this way? Or that way? I'll go this way. The dark wood motif. Reminds me of Harmful Opinions. Dark wood, except his wood background is dark grey, whereas this is just dark brown. Chocolate wood, I'll call it chocolate wood. That motif is all around here too. Look at this. It's all over these buildings. Like half red brick, half chocolate wood, or you can have yellow brick with purple flecks. Yeah, no, dudes, I'm trying to convince you of an aesthetic here, alright? I'm trying to convince you of a look. Right, is this another cul-de-sac, or can I get out? Will it ward me off? There's a park down there. Oh, I can't see a path. Is this a path, or is this just dodging us? There might be a path. Is this a path? Oh, there's a... Well, that looks like garden access path. Oh, yes! Yes! There was a path. See, all these urban areas, it's really hard to find pedestrian paths around them. It should be easy, shouldn't it? All these dead brambles going purple and green. That's that colour combo I was talking to you about on stream. Mystic Cave. Is that flowers up in that tree? What are those? It's a bit pinky up there, like a blossom. What is that? Ah. Yeah, dude, there are flowers in the tree. What is that? It's winter, dude. What's going on? It's ribbed. I'm not familiar with this tree, but it's literally got pink flowers growing all over it. This might be access. Let's go down here. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think this is that Ripley's Rapley's place where we came in. It's either that or a higher up estate. No, this is some place called Denham Grove. So it's a different one. That's a unique tree as well. What kind of plant is that? With really long reptile leaves. No idea what that is. Oh there, we were just literally one up from Rapley Green, which is where we entered the park from. There it is, look. More patterns in the brickwork. More purple flecks in the yellow stone there. There's a comm tower thing, which I think I saw while I was right down there. It stood out quite a lot. Landmark, I could see that from loads of locations down there. It's a really chill estate, yeah. Yeah, I reckon in summer, if you came here, you'd just see like flowers everywhere. That'd be the main difference. The whole place is like tons of flowers. So you probably wouldn't notice that because it's winter right now. I think that's the place we used to get down, Rickman, maybe? Or is it? Let's go down this one and then join on to the next one. Yeah, it's the wrong one, there's no road. So, well, there's the landmark for here, the big sports field. And then down there, I think there used to be a bigger park down there. Something like, and more of the weird wall motif, you know, the brick wall. Oh, here's some here. More of this going on in all sorts of styles, I think. I'm sure they do more stuff with them. These are sticking out, and those ones are punched in. I have to laugh at this sign. Never seen a sign such as this. That sounds all backwards to me right now. Well, the sign is faded, so maybe the new one says the opposite. So, after a walk and a meal, I'm back. Hopefully I don't look too naff. So, we walked through Bracknell to where my nan lived in her old house that she had for the longest time that we knew her. She did live at a smaller house after that for a short while. I think that's called Ash Vale, the place where that was, which is somewhere south of here. Might be near Camberley. And we also lived in my nan's house. My dad and mum lived in my nan's house when my nan was gone from the house. I don't know why she was gone from the house for however long that was. Felt like a few months. And I do remember going to a primary school here. The story with me going to primary schools is I went to primary schools in so many different places before we settled on my last one, which was Horrobridge Primary School in Devon. It's kind of like a gypsy kind of like a gypsy lifestyle, because you're always moving around and you don't actually get to settle at a school, and didn't get enough time to kind of make friends and stuff. So Horrobridge is where I made friends the most. All the other ones, like I went to Malvern as a primary school where I learnt to write. I went to Bracknell, there was a primary school, I remember I was here for a very short time. I went to Javier in Spain, there was a primary school, kind of a church school. That might be all of them, or there might be another one that I'm blanking on at the moment, but yeah. So I went to a primary school here for a time. I can't remember how old I was or when this was. I think this was around 1991. Yeah, that sounds right. Because I think the Gulf War one was raging in the background. So it was around 1991. I had to do some maths, maybe in the edit, to subtract my current age, which is coming up to 38. Subtract, back to 1991 and work out how old I was then, on screen now. So I was just a kid, really. But yeah, we lived at Nan's house. I have various weird memories, like atmospheric memories about it. My nan had a cat called Brandy, which I believe was a long hair, and it was the first cat I ever really knew. It was kind of like a Coca-Cola coloured, slightly coffee-ish coloured long hair cat. I don't think I ever got that close to it to like make friends with it, as far as I know. It was just kind of, I remember it existing, and I don't think I knew how to interact with cats at that stage, and that was way before we got our first cat, Cleo. My nan had these big French doors at the bottom of her house on the dining room area, and she had all this kind of china teapots and things and magazines, and I think she'd smoke and read these kind of girly magazine things. I don't know if they're fashion magazines or whatever. And there's like bright sun in the morning. My mum and her used to go with my mum's sisters, my aunties, to like shopping malls and stuff, and come back. The French windows, like Brandy the cat would sit by the French windows and look out at night. I don't know if we're near airports here. I haven't heard any planes go by, but you'd always hear this really atmospheric sound of kind of low planes. We don't really get it in Dartmoor, but the sound, like if it's overcast and at night, you'd hear the echo of low planes flying overhead. It's like, it's this woo woo woo. I can't even do the impression, but the kind of a weird cloudy booming sound as they slowly ploughed through the sky above the clouds, and you'd hear that, and you'd look out at the dusk, and this is like one of my atmospheres vlogs, it would be one of those, me describing to you the atmosphere of being in a place. That's what I'm going to try and get through to you now, from a childlike perspective. She had a little garden, there were some ponds in it. It's a kind of a small garden with a shed up the top, sort of a hill. There was neighbours who might have had a dog, and there was a little fence on, a little gate on the corner. I think there was a gate between the two properties, maybe, that never got opened, I think. I don't know how that works. Yeah, I'm just trying to recollect memories, and there was a little kind of metal table, outdoor table with chairs around it, kind of up near this gate in the corner on the left of the French doors. I think Nan would have tea outside sometimes. Not much happened with the garden. really. I think we played in it. My cousin Luke kind of bullied me there a little bit. Nan used to put washing on the laundry line in a kind of 1950s style, move around in the breeze. There was something called a hobby horse. It was like a stick with a horse's head that she kept in a closet, and it's like, this is a toy that we were expected to play with. I think the first few times I was told that I could play with it, I was like, what? This is weird. What do you do with it? This is weird. And then all the times after that, it was gone somewhere, and I kept asking where it was when I visited. Like, where's the hobby horse? Where is it? I remember the hobby horse. Like, She used to keep an aloe vera plant by the sink. And you know when you cut a corner off one of the aloe vera plant, and the inside of the leaf is just like gel. And I think she just cut the leaf off and used the gel straight from the plant like that. There was like a bathroom, maybe, with a cupboard underneath that just contained huge plastic crates, like 2 crates worth of Lego, and she'd always pull those out when we were there. I think they originally belonged to my cousin James, along with a bunch of Star Wars action figure toys, which went to Jackie's house, my auntie, who also lives in Bracknell, who we used to visit sometimes, and she had a kind of foresty bit outside in her garden. But yeah, in Nan's house there was like boxes of Lego in the closet that we used to play with when we went there. There's kind of a mixture of memories from when we actually lived in the house, with memories of us visiting Nan in the house. There was always a TV on, but unlike the TV of today, which I don't watch at all, it was a TV of 1991, so everything was different. Not massively different, but everything was okay back then. We weren't like aware of any leftist propaganda coming through. It seemed pretty normal. Most common thing on, I think, was like Sesame Street. So I've got memories of watching Sesame Street, you know, Big Bird, and is it Groucho? Who's the trash monster? Oscar the Grouch, right? The trash monster. Back when Sesame Street was good, I guess, back then. Always used to remember watching those sorts of kids programs. I remember kind of environmentalist propaganda that they were doing way back then, like, you're destroying the world, you're killing all these animals by polluting and destroying the world. So that propaganda's been going on for a long time, and it's not actually true, the message that they're putting through. Some of it is true, but most of it is not true. The climate stuff is especially not true. Other than the climate does change, but it's nothing to do with humans polluting or anything. It's just a natural cycle of change. But there was this environment TV program. It's kind of like a nature program. You know, you used to get those nature programs with David Attenborough. I'm getting confused with his brother from Jurassic Park. Not Richard Attenborough, David Attenborough. You used to get other nature shows before that where it wasn't his voice. You get all sorts. And this was one example of those. So it had lots of kind of safari, Serengeti, you know, pictures of cheetahs and wildebeest and gazelle moving around. But like the narrator was going all out on, humans have done this, this and this, and it's destroying our world, and if we keep doing all this, then all these animals that you see that we're playing in the background of this narration will die. And it's like, it was really trying to tug at the heartstrings, make you sound cruel for being a human, make all humans sound cruel, make it sound apocalyptic, like the world is ending and humans are bad and they did this. And it was like, and I think I was like crying at the end of this documentary thing. Like, this affected me quite strongly at the time, but I think not that long a distance after, I think several years after, I realised I was being manipulated and that I was being played for a fool when I watched that thing, and that media manipulation is a thing, and that you can be kind of controlled and made to think a certain way by like sentimental music and narration telling you something's happening when it isn't necessarily happening, and then playing things in the background like animals, things that you are likely to involuntarily care about, and use it on you basically as a subtle weapon. And yeah, they got me with that one when I was a kid. What other things were on the TV? Well, I wonder how much I can say on this, but this is the first time we watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Although I can't work out the timeline because we did live in Canada, in Kelowna for a bit, and I remember watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Canada as well, so I think these were all round about the same era, 1989, 1991, 1992, somewhere around here is when all this was happening. Yeah, perhaps I'll save that to talk in a different video, but the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles thing certainly put weird thoughts in my head at the time, which was like the beginning of something. There were other things going on TV, like The Blob, I think I saw, and I got scared of that. I think I was watching that from Nan's house. There was lots of kind of 1991 news shows, and you get the kind of grain. You got the kind of grey-haired presenter in his square-rimmed glasses, with a very British voice. The Prime Minister was John Major, and some of the news presenters kind of looked like him in a way. You had TV shows on like The Krypton Factor, various versions of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, things like that. For some reason, lots of kids programs that were kind of brightly coloured, not in the kind of rainbowish colour thing that you get these days with the groomers messing around with kids, but like kind of like American themed stuff, like you'd see the yellow school bus quite a lot, things like that. You'd see all sorts of races and stuff, so and it wouldn't just be white kids or anything. As far as I'm concerned, racism was very close to being completely eradicated in the 1990s, and we have regressed and gone back after that period ended. Essentially, the events that happened after that have brought racism back when it was very close to going away completely. None of the people in my era, kind of I don't want to say generation because I have gripes about the term generation, but my age group, not that many of us were, I'm not collectivizing, but not that many people in my age group I saw as being racist, and I certainly didn't think of myself as racist. And every time you saw someone from a different country, there was like no reaction. It was just like, that's another person, it's another human. They look like this, there's no like, oh, why is their skin a different colour? Oh, they must be different. Must be an alien. Oh, they go over there. Or the guy goes clearly French. Keep him away from me. Like none of that stuff went on. A lot of that is kind of quite a recent phenomenon, I think, and played for kind of political gain. Yeah, all sorts of people we saw on our TV shows. I remember actually, and this isn't one I've written down because I'm going vaguely off notes, but there was a lot of children's books. I don't know if my dad got them for me, maybe he did, and we must have thrown them away at some point. But I kind of learnt my first inkling of history from these children's books, which I think I read at Nan's house there. And they like had like drawn depictions of like Roman Empire and dinosaurs and how a Saracen looked and how a medieval person looked and how a Viking looked, and what their homes were like and what weapons they carried and stuff. And you got a really good sense of what all those people from history looked like and stuff and how they were meant to be. And then later in life, like way later in life, TV shows started being made of like Vikings and medieval people, and I would always think, yeah, this looks authentic because I'd seen it before somewhere in my past, and where I'd seen it before is in these kind of drawn books and things. And like all the TV shows that did depictions of historical people always seemed to, it's like they'd read the same books as me when I was a kid. because they depicted them in this exact same way. So those quite accurate books with just little kind of, watercolor, like drawings, maybe it's pen drawings, watercolors on a white background sort of thing, of like various historical things. For some reason, because it's 90s stuff, you got a lot of kind of summery looking things on TV, like surfing people and stuff like that, kind of sailing, things like that, boat races. There seem to be a lot of images of water on sunny days on TV, and for some reason that got me kind of dreaming as a kid in that period of like places with blue sky, mountain climbing, sailing in the summer, like surfing in the summer, all these things that kind of filled my mind with this kind of positive, like, future thing that I'd want to do, this thing that looked really cool and attractive and something that I'd want to do at some point in my life. So it filled my head with dreams of aspirations, I guess. It's only some of which I've achieved. I always wanted to kind of figure out surfing or something like that, or try sailing or something. But going to the sea last year in 2022 and seeing the bodyboarders beside me, I was just like, yeah, I should start by getting a bodyboard and messing around on it. I think next time I'm in the sea in the summer, I should mess with that. That might be a thing. But I don't know about sailing. I have no idea how I'd get into that. And like those paragliders on Branscom's Loaf, that looked awesome too, but I have no idea how you get into that and how much money it costs or whatever. We had very traditional Christmases in Nan's house. You had a big, giant Christmas tree in the corner of the room, filling the room with all the kind of decorations and tinsel. We used to love decorating it. All the presents under the tree. It was like an actual Christmas back then. It was like the beginnings of the kind of magical Christmas, I suppose, where everything's atmospheric and stuff. It'd be nice to get back to those times, but you kind of need to be in the right situation, I think, to be able to do it right, which I'm not in currently, so someday maybe. We used to feed the ducks. There was a lot of duck ponds around here. You saw some of those earlier. I didn't expect to see Canada geese there, actually. Quite surprised. But yeah, also, obviously see the mallards. There's a lot of places around here where we do that. Also, there's a place where one of my aunties, Auntie Pat, lives. Can't remember the name of that place, but they have like a lot of canals around there with big dragonflies. Quite a lot of those zooming around the canals. Yeah, I remember some of that. That also ties in with how I imagine some parts of War of the Worlds from the book version. Lots of kind of canal systems and things. So upstairs of Nan's house, the room on the right, nearest there's a T-junction that goes in and the house is on the corner. On the right, it goes up that street. There's a upstairs bedroom on the right, and that kind of wallpaper in the bedroom, it's kind of had old wallpaper, kind of whitish with like a repeating pattern all across it. And I think we were in that room. I was put in that room to sleep for some time. I don't know if that was my bedroom while I was there, but this wallpaper was like nightmare material. You know, sometimes you get a repeating pattern, or you get like an image on a wall in a pattern form, and you just stare at it and it does things to your mind, like you're looking at a magic eye puzzle or something. It was kind of like that, but sometimes it would give me nightmares, which were kind of War of the Worldsy style nightmares, which is very appropriate for the region. So it would inspire my nightmares. And other times it gave me my first feeling of tunnel vision. I think it's tunnel vision. I can't remember if that's the word you use to describe this feeling that I get. Sometimes when I'm tired and I come home from work, or I come home from being somewhere, if I'm I don't know what it is, if I'm in the right mood, or if I'm in the right frame of mind, or if something is altered in my brain, I get this tunnel vision thing where I just come in. It's kind of rare. it happens twice a year, sort of thing, something like. And your vision is zoomed in basically. So you look around, and like, if I was to look over there, and there's a light switch up there, I'd just see it as if like this camera was like zoomed in on it, like you'd be zoomed in like that, but all the area around here would still be like visible, but it'd just be like so blurred out that it might as well not exist anyway. Like your focus is attached to this central area, and everything in here is really clear and zoomed in, and everything around the outside is so, like, I don't know if you can describe it as blurry, but the best way to describe it is like this area all around the central bit is ignored, and the area that you're looking at is hyper focused on, and it feels like you've zoomed in on it with your eyes, like your eyes are a telescope. I do physically get this sometimes, and it does physically happen, and it's so weird when it's happening, because it's like, oh, would people believe me if I told them this was happening? But this is fucking really happening to me, dude. There are some physical things like that where you're just like, oh, how can I don't think people would believe me if I told them that this was happening to my body right now, but it is. there's things like that out there. Anyway, tunnel vision is one, and this wallpaper, just looking at this wallpaper sometimes gave me this tunnel vision. Like, I'd be like hyper focused on a small section of it, way up in the middle of the room away from me, and it would like brought closer to me, and I was like, what is happening to me? I don't know if it's some kind of brain issue or something. I'm brain damaged, man. I don't know. It only happens like a couple times a year though. It's so strange. It's triggered by something, obviously. Tiredness is one thing. Anyway, in another room upstairs of my nan's house, in the bit to the left of the house, there's a window that faces the road outside, you know, where there's like a big sports ground. Before that there's a road, and I don't know if that was my nan's room or if my parents were taking it at the time when my nan was out there. But I'd just kind of creep into the room while it was empty some nights, and just be aware of like how the light like gets cast on the ceiling as the cars passed on the road outside. There's like diagonal beams that go across, just keep sweeping across the entire room. It seemed to be mostly orange light. It just kept sweeping and crossing over each other and stuff. And it seemed to fascinate me. But the room was always dark except for that. And you look down, and I think there was some kind of teddy bears in there, sat on the old granny style chair, like armchair in the corner. There was like a teddy bear that might have been a dog or it might have been a bear, and another one. And one of those, when I was in there in the dark looking around at things, like, that was nightmare fuel as well, because one of them looked like I froze when I was walking through and saw this teddy bear, and it just looked like a real dog or something was looking at me from the corner of the room in the dark on this armchair. I was just like transfixed, like, is there meant to be a teddy bear there, or has it been replaced by this actual animal who's just staring at me? And he won't move, but if I start leaving the room now, he'll attack me. It's kind of a terrifying, just seeing things. I think that might have helped create one of my fears, which is something that looks like it has eyes staring at you in the dark, is one of my fears. You go outside and you just think you see like a silhouette or a shape in the trees that seems to have eyes and seems to not be moving, and it's just watching you, but it's actually just a shape cast by the shadows or whatever. Yeah, I think that might have been the genesis of that fear, possibly. Yeah, I think I mentioned we watched the film The Blob there, which is kind of a comical movie now when you look back at it. I watched it kind of recently, and it's a bit silly, but back then it was terrifying, especially the bit where the old man pokes the alien space blob, and it kind of, there's a backwards effect as he like pokes it with a stick, and it works its way up the stick and consumes his arm, and then from then on it just starts eating his corpse, sort of thing. That was a nightmare fuel film at the time as well. I haven't watched the remake. Yeah, and the house, living in the house was like even, especially while Nan was there, it's like a real mixture of like a 1950s style house and way of living and a 1980s style way of living. All the TV programs were like 80s and 90s type things, and going back further than that. So you really got more of that kind of picture of the world, which was a lot better picture of the world actually than the picture, if you turned on the TV these days, the picture painted by the current programs and things. It's just completely different and like a lot worse, and not atmospheric, and doesn't paint a good picture and doesn't intrigue me in the same way, I guess. I think kind of the graininess of the look of the shows on TV was part of the appeal as well. You had this kind of chromatic aberration, I think they call it, where like the colours are slightly separated along the outlines of things on the screen. Like VHS, VCR tapes kind of do this sometimes. You know, you got static and you got edge lines that were broken up slightly into like greens or blues in places. And I remember the house, there's a big kind of long hedge that juts out to the side. I don't think there's a garage there, but that's the path into the house goes beside this hedge, and there's a gate where you can reach the garden, or you jink off to the left to get to the front door. And I always remember that hedge, like there's something mysterious about that. And there was something mysterious about the whole place that the house was situated in, like Bracknell. From my perspective as a kid, inside that house, thinking about what Bracknell was on the outside, I just saw it as quite a threatening, scary world where it was quite large and confusing, and lots of things must have been happening outside, and I didn't know about any of them, but I had it in my mind that there was stuff out there that was scary, and it was all kind of surrounding the house, and my mum would go off into that world to do who knows what, shopping or something. I thought there's this kind of multitudinous is the word that comes to me, like there was like a lot of different things outside the house, and that was somehow scary to me. Like there was a lot of different places, and there were a lot of strangers in the places, like lots of scary strangers, and they're all doing things, and I didn't have any knowledge about what any of those things were. And it's just like, I liked the house, being in the house, and I liked when we took trips to the parks to feed the ducks. I'm not sure where else we took trips to actually when we were there, but I felt kind of terrified of the unknown, I guess, that was out beyond that area of the house that I showed you today, up to the sports field, and like no further than that was familiar to me. And part of the bushes and hedge outside the door for some reason reminded me of like earlier time than 1980s, like it evoked the feeling of like 1960s and 1970s, like thinking of old rock and roll, like the Beatles or the Kinks or something. And when you saw old TV programs, like, I don't know, something like Murder, She Wrote or something like that. That kind of, it's a weird thing to say, isn't it? But that hedge outside the house just gave me that feeling, like, of like how my parents would pass the hedge and go into the car and drive off. There's just something about seeing that which made me think of 60s and 70s, even though that time had passed, and things to do with the 60s and 70s. Yeah. And that's the area around there is sort of the basis of my second Sheltered novel, which I haven't uploaded any audiobook readings of, but I'd like to at some point. Like the first couple of scenes of that are sort of based in that location, as if that location is the house of the characters that I wrote. But yeah, so keep that in mind when I start reading that book, I guess. Anyway, yeah, that's a bunch of different kind of atmospheres thoughts about the house I lived in that was my nan's house. What the fuck? No, leave it alone. Don't ever turn that on. Morning, folks. I think the plan today is to try and go to Windsor first thing on 10 o'clock-ish bus. I think it's actually 9:50 something. It's 9:20 now, so I have to start walking soon. And there's a tiny bit of sunshine out today, which was unanticipated, which would be quite good. Go to Windsor, walk the long walk, see if I feel like walking all the way to Wraysbury, although I might get cut off on the way because the paths aren't good. Then maybe get a bus from Windsor to Woking, possibly. See the sandpits and then go back from there. But that would mean I'd have to walk down to Bracknell Woods if I want to see them after. I'm not sure if my legs can take it. I'd like to go to Bracknell Forest, but yeah, it's just fitting it all in because that's 3 different places today. Also, I want to find a place that does pizza at the end of the day, and if anything's open, possibly look at some clothing stores that are in the... There's a giant mall things like the Spectre. Oh no, the Lexicon. Yeah, Lexicon. See if I can go there and have a look around before the day's out. Because cities generally have big clothing stores, and living out in the country, there's not many of the kind of clothes I want, and so you end up trying to buy clothes from the internet, and you can't really buy clothes from the internet because you can't try them on. That's an inherent flaw in trying to buy clothes from the internet, is you have no idea what the actual colour's like, what the actual fabric's like, if they fit, if there's any secret compartments and stuff. You have to be able to try stuff on live when you're buying clothes. Oh yeah, look at this silver birch. That's cool. It's all peeling off and stuff. Horrific kind of communist building there. The college. We're on the move again. I haven't found a faster way to the bus station yet. It seems you have to go through the shopping mall every time from here, unless you can somehow get over the thing there and cross the street. There's a big barrier. Maybe instead of going that way, we can go this way, and then we can cross back. Whoa. An accident happened there. Yeah, I've gone a different route. I just noticed that big A thing on the college actually stands for Activate Learning. So yeah, there really are NPCs over there. There's a weird thing on top of the roof. What have they done here? What's that now? Slide? This thing is so glassy and everything. But it's actually a church, which is baffling to me. I always think of churches as the old ornate buildings, but this is like one of these new modern shiny monstrosities. This one, however, I like this one. I think it's the colour scheme that does it, and the shape. For some reason there is something well done about that. Bypassing the mall, I think the railway building is around there. Maybe it's that one. I think it's that one. And I think I went down here. Yeah, here. And then here. There we go. And that is a quicker route that bypasses the mall. That's pretty good. Right, let's find this bus. Got a bit confused back there and thought I had to continue on through the underpasses, but then I forgot I had to go through this little park. Dude, it is a kind of cool building. I think it belongs in a desert though. Put it in a Dune movie or something. It's a cool building, but for like a desert, I think. Because remember when I was building Space Beast, if you watched my Space Engineers gaming videos, I was mining to build that spacecraft. It looks like that. Here we are, we're on that green bus, I think. Bad payments, separation, so you can see physical cash, the real way of paying, and they're doing exact fare only, and that's before they try and get rid of it entirely, which they're trying to do. It doesn't say Oyster card though. I thought they'd have those things here. So that's taken the wind out of my sails a bit. I don't fancy waiting around for an hour, so I'll try and get to Bracknell Forest. I was going to say something like, oh, there's the railway for a start. I was going to say something like there should be some rule for the bus drivers that they don't drive off if someone's on their platform that their bus leaves from. But there shouldn't be a rule. It's up to the individual bus driver, I think, to watch out for that stuff and be a good person. Or be a good businessman, I guess. Really, you just get more customers and you get more money for you or your organisation if you had better practices. Like, that was a bad driver, that's what I'm going to say. Bible base. That sounds funny. So I'm in Windsor. I got to Windsor. It's very upmarket looking, strangely quiet at the moment. And there's a long stretch of kind of woods on a long road that seems to connect part of Bracknell to the Bracknell to Windsor route, which was interesting. I think I filmed a little bit of that on the bus. Something happened in Bracknell, so my plans have changed. Maybe once I get on a long walk I'll find somewhere to sit down and I can talk about it. We're just on the edge of the gates that go to the long walk now. Quite a cool looking pub up there. The exterior of it. This is what I saw on the Google Street View actually. It seems so weird that they're prohibiting the cyclists from going on a long walk. There it is again, those cyclists. Look at this though. And the castle is up that way, I think. There's the castle end of the long walk. Behind some golden gates. It's quite a large building over there actually. I think it stretches more towards the right there. Here is the long walk. I'm going to walk down. I was worried that the ground might just be completely gravel or something, which would kind of ruin it, but it looks like the ground is completely firm pavement. I think there's a deer park at the end. Lots of planes going by because we're near Heathrow. Let's Oh, there's a hill in the middle, that's what the road's on. And there is a statue on a hill right at the end there. I'm going to try and get to that, I guess. Call it the long walk for nothing, that does look quite a long way away. It's strange that there's a straight path going that distance. It's like a mile or two. I was looking for a bench on the left hand side, but I'm not seeing any. I thought this was a bench, but I think it's just a bit of a wall. Oh, I see what's happening. There's like a trench with water in the field beyond, and it goes into this tube here. Sometimes, not that much right now. Hey there, I could stop here. This might be as good a place as any. So, I was in Bracknell, heading to Bracknell Forest. That was the plan. Oh, there's a lot of planes from there. When I was like approached on the street by this busybody type authoritarian person who was like telling me to stop filming on the street and that I shouldn't be filming on the street, and that kind of put me right off. Like, she came right up to me and like was kind of harassing me, going like, you shouldn't film here, like you shouldn't be filming around the estates and stuff. And it's like, it's a public place as far as the law is concerned. I know we talked about the stuff on Branscombe's Loaf and all that, but as far as the current law, as I know it is in effect, it is considered a public place when you're just walking around outside and you're not on private land and stuff, like this place. So you have the right to film in these places. But she was all like, you shouldn't film in these places, you passed my house, I saw you walking by when you were filming, delete the pics off your phone, and stuff like that. So like, what are you talking about? This is a public place. And she was like getting really pushy with me, and it was very unkind, like aggressive woman coming out to harass me in the street basically. And the short of it is that put me off going to Bracknell Forest, because I would have had to get to Bracknell Forest, I would have had to keep walking down south through those places, and I don't know where this person lives. I have no idea which of the 1,000 houses in my background was hers that she was complaining about. I have no fucking idea what she was trying to protect or whatever, but it was just really, really strange. It was like snitch culture. It was like report culture. You know, these people who have nothing better to do, they're busybodies, and they go around like approaching people in the street and going, you're not meant to do that, you're not meant to do this. Like, they think they're public versions of policemen, I guess. They think they're citizen like cops essentially, and they see it on the internet. But I think it's even worse when it's bad when it happens anywhere, but it's even worse when it's in real life, as opposed to the people who click report on stuff on the internet, which you shouldn't do. You should just leave, because the internet, everything is speech. Well, when you're filming in public, that's just a right that everyone should have. You know, the freedom. It's like freedom of the press, freedom to film in a public place. You know, as long as you're not getting in someone's face, then it's fine. As long as you're not in private property when you're filming. If you're told not to film then sure, you shouldn't film because it's on someone's land, and they have the right to do what they want with their private land. But I wasn't on any private land. As far as the law is concerned, that was a public place. You know, all the walking along the streets as I did around that area. So it was very strange and very aggressive, and I just got put off from being in Bracknell. Like, she would go up and snitch me to the cops for some perceived crime that isn't actually a crime. So very strange, and that's why I've decided to go back to the bus station and try again to get to Windsor, and luckily this time there was a green bus at the stop and it didn't drive away, so here I am. And so this is actually probably going to change the kind of video that you get to see. This video on YouTube is going to be changed from my initial plan from the video, I think, because yeah, well, for one thing, I wanted to go to Bracknell Forest, and now I'm not going to Bracknell Forest. Essentially, I've been put off from going by this crazy woman approaching me. It's an insane fake inspector coming up on the street, and so that bit's not going to feature in the video. I'm not sure if I'll be able to fit in Woking. I'll have to see if there's time left in the day. It's 12 o'clock now, so there might be time, but for now let's do the long walk. Again, Raisbury Fishing Lakes. Is it Raisbury? I think it is. I can point out where I would have left to get to it, which is this hump here up by the road, and then over that way to the Albert Bridge. But I don't think I'm going to be able to walk to it. It just seems overly long. Well, we did get this bright sunshine, which I was not expecting. That's a happy thing that's happened.
The water is really leaking badly out of that.
Almost in line with one of the runways, I think. Here's the road. Here's where you turn off to the left to try and get to Raisbury Fishing Lakes. You want to get past that Albert Bridge. But yeah, it does seem an excessively long distance, and I'm just not sure about the public paths and where they start and end. It's really not clear on the OS map. Oh, you would have thought they put a crossing here. They've just got a main road. They've got a main road cutting the long walk in half, and there's not actually a pedestrian crossing way here. That's very strange. So it still says no cycles, which I don't agree with at all, but it doesn't say no skateboards, motorcycles, or whatever. Windsor Great Park. Rules, 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 rules. So we crossed that road. That was quite difficult to cross, actually. Lots of busy traffic. And there's the castle now. Turned out to be a lovely, sunny winter's day. I didn't expect, actually, all these, I should have expected, I guess, all these planes coming from Heathrow Airport, which is that way. Quite a few of them flying low over this strip. I suppose if I did go to Raisbury, they'd just be even closer than that. That's crazy. That's where we're heading. I wonder how high that hill actually is. One weird bad thing about being here is I think we're near Eton here. I think it's just over the river actually from Windsor, and that's where all the prime ministers, almost all of the prime ministers of Britain were educated. It's like it's a special club of elites where only people who were there, I think even Boris Johnson, I have to check this, but I think even Boris Johnson was educated there, despite him being a fuddy-duddy on Have I Got News For You. they don't drop any litter out the windows, because I was right under that one. Imagine bits come off of a plane while that's flying over. People, there are a lot of dog walkers out, but there are a couple of people like jogging. Like, it seems like they're jogging back and forth. I'm sure I passed that guy just now, or he passed me rather. Some people might be jogging the full length back and forth, kind of like a lap, but not really because it's a straight line. Must be a neat way to get exercise around here. I think there are gates across these bits because it suddenly becomes a deer park. I think the thing that surprised me when I looked at these gates on the street view is I think they're automated. So they're like the doors in the front of supermarkets that open for customers to come in, but they're deer park gates. It's really weird. All these dodgy lighting motifs on this otherwise slightly Tudor looking house. I'm not actually sure if that's Tudor design, but the black and brown posts made me think of that. The lightning zigzags are very strange. Well, the one I looked at on Street View did say it was automated, but this one actually people seem to have been just squeezing through a real gate on the right here. Oh no. They've banned drones as well. Everything evil in the world is done in the name of safety. I don't think that's about safety. Banned drones, they banned bikes. Ooh. Now this is something I could probably get behind. Ticks, they jump on deer, don't they? So maybe there's more of them. There's the other side of the fence and the weird SS house with its lightning street things. And now we're in the final stretch of the long walk with the deer park. I don't actually think there's going to be ticks around here. I think the city folk are running around scared because they heard of ticks once and they don't realise that ticks, it says on the sign, ticks, you might walk through dense vegetation before you get ticks. Well, they hang around. If you sit down on soil in certain areas for a long time, they'll come out. I don't think this is the place where you'd find ticks, to be honest. You might find them on the deer, but I don't see how you'd find them in this clear grass area here. It's not the kind of place where they quest. They need like long grass. They do questing. They put their little claws out and just sit on the corner of a blade of grass and wait for something warm to pass. Final stretch. Oh, look at that sky today. There's something pink and silver and peach about it going on. Very strange. Planes reminding me of things. So last night I did manage to get a fair bit of productivity in writing my third sheltered book, which is called Sludgescape. They all begin with S, I think that's a kind of running theme. And yeah, the planes flying over. If you've heard my description of the book I'm writing, you'll know why that's kind of relevant or appropriate. It's kind of about planes that get cannibalized and turned into something else. I'm not seeing any deer anywhere back there, but they are quite skittish creatures. I'm surprised actually how easy it is to see the deer when I went to Bristol, University of West England. There's a deer park right by the uni, and you could always see the deer in that park. They weren't like running away or anything. Another one. Plane spotting today. I do like planes. Around here's a place called Farnborough, and they used to have the Farnborough Air Show, but now when I looked up the Farnborough Air Show the other day, it's just a mess of like junk that's nothing to do with people going to a field near an airstrip to watch different kinds of aircraft take off and land. Like, you can't even do that anymore. It's just a big business thing about like globalism and environment and sustainability and aircraft business partners showing their wares. It's like not what it should be, I think. Still seems a little bit far off, but we're closer. hoping there's some benches up near the statue at the top. There's like a full-on car coming down there. Surely that's not permitted. What's that? There's actually another car driving down here. What's going on? Why? And do they own property here? The property? Or do they have permission from the landowners to drive down? It's like the elites and the plebs again, isn't it? If these cars can drive down the road, then surely all cars can. What are they doing? Just don't. Our next ground has become slightly more gravelly here. This is not what I wanted. Why is this bit not like the starting bit? The side of it looks like the monument's kind of big. More bigger than I thought. We are finally the hill right at the end. We walked all that today. I'm gonna walk all the way back. Jeez, it's a long way. It's kind of gigantic, that plinth thing that it's on. Some Latin, I think. Giorgio Turno Fatri Ortino Georgius Rex. Or is it Roman? I don't know. Big, it's pretty big. The rocks at the bottom make it seem like there was a tor here before. It was built on top, but I highly doubt that. Ooh. But that construction of bricks that they put up there, no friggin' idea how they built that base bit. Nice smoothed rocks. There's the rump, a little raven carved on the walls. I don't know what this thing down the back is. Look, anti-climb spikes for Her Majesty or His Majesty or whatever. His Majesty of the World Economic Forum now. Jesus fucking Christ. And I don't think the walk continues there, but you can sort of go forward a bit and then you can go like left or right. I think you're funneled. So, there's you can see the rock cutting technique they use on Dartmoor with the little grooves in the rock. That's cool how they do that. That was a long walk. I'll have to find out how long that is. It's got to be more than a mile. See the shadow, because the sun's behind us, you can actually see the shadow of the horse on the ground in front of us. And there's the longy walk. This is what I've done today. It's not steep, well the end bit, a tiny bit, but look at that thing. That's, if only there were more things like that. Except you should be able to cycle down them. Oh, that's just is that the house with the deer fence? God, that's further away than I thought it'd be. The compression of the distance from, so there's Windsor Castle. That's quite huge, isn't it? Is there an abbey over there as well? There's Windsor Castle. Is that a buzzard in my frame? What is that? There might be a bird of prey in my frame. Camera compresses a huge amount of distance into that couple of centimetres. There's a long way to walk, but it just looks like tiny toy town. I'm so not ready to walk back there yet. I think I'm going to do a time lapse and have a drink, and then I'll make a slow start, because I don't think there's any random bus stops around here that get you all the way up there, so just walk it back again, dudes. There we go, lads. That was a nice stop-off point. A lot more relaxing than being in Bracknell. I would have liked to walk through Bracknell Forest. I assume it'd be like this on a larger scale with, you know, maybe there'd be snowdrops, but there aren't any leaves on the trees, so it'd be like bare trees, a lot of trails. But it did say there were a couple hills in there. That sparked my interest. I don't know how high the hills are around there though. They don't seem to go above 100. I think you can get up to like 200 meters in height, and that's about the highest of the hills that are around here. This is the highest hill that's around here. I don't suppose it's actually that high compared to what I'm used to in Dartmoor, but you get a brilliant panorama across it. I have a feeling that's London back there, because there's like skyscrapers around. Yeah, there's something there. There's some lakes over there on the right. I don't know if that's raspberry or if it's something else. There's some strange white contraptions over here. Like a power plant, I think. Nuclear? No, no, it's unclear. It's unclear if that's nuclear. Just rearrange the first two letters, dude. I'll try and get back to Bracknell now. I might have a look at the bus stop banners, whatever, what do you call them, timetable posters, to see if I can see if there are any buses from here to Woking, but if not, I might try buses from Bracknell bus station to Woking. We'll see. Some of those hawks I saw earlier with red on their wings. Is that a red kite or what? It must look good at sometime before sunset. So there's a little bit of trees on the horizon, so not exactly sunset, but before sunset, when it's the golden hour and you get the orangey light from the sun on a clear summer's day, just coming sideways, because there's a big line of trees here, so I assume it'd be like orange and blue stripes all the way down. I'll have to see if I can find a video of that. Okay guys, so that walk was killer, and by the time I got back to Bracknell from Windsor, it was starting to get dim outside, and I wanted to go fetch a pizza for dinner and stuff. So yeah, I did that, and now it's dark. So unfortunately, no Woking this trip. I've actually kind of started having enough of Bracknell. Like, it's after that woman fucking set me off, that psycho woman who came up to harass me in the street. If she hadn't come up to me, I would have got a lot more done today. I would have kept walking to Bracknell Forest for one thing. I don't know if I would have fit in the long walk, because the long walk, I don't know if you know this guys, but it's a long walk. and I've got to measure it. But yeah, I have to edit my way around this video to make it into a different video than what I was originally intending it to be. But that's okay. Obviously, when you go on a trip, sometimes lots of things happen that you weren't expecting to happen, and that was the case with this trip. But yeah, I hope you've got a nice insight into the workings of my mind with some of my nostalgia for this place. Even though I can definitely say that the place that Bracknell is now is nothing like the place that Bracknell was in around 1991 when I lived there. So it's a very different place, very urban, and obviously the socialists and the statists have got their teeth in everywhere. There's a lot of authoritarian signs everywhere, and you know, obstacles stopping you going places, and people out to stop your freedoms. So yeah. And it's very urban. It's much more like a city than I remember. It's just a satellite of London, so I should have expected it. You can easily have your fill of seeing people's faces, lots of strange humans passing you by doing all sorts of weird shit. Almost every human you pass by is doing something weird. And yeah, ugh. There were a few people who treated me nice, and actually I just went out to Pizza Express, and there I got served by a cute girl. And we were like looking at the prices and getting confused because the price outside on the window was completely different from the price on her menu. So we were going in and out the glass doors to compare the menus, and yeah, it was confusing, but we got there in the end. She had like a foreign accent. I don't know what accent it was. It was like Czech or Polish, but she spoke English really well through it. It's strange because most of the people on this trip seem to be not like what I'd consider English, although on the way back up the long walk, just as I went through the gate to get back onto the high street, there was a couple of Sikh guys, and they were holding a baby girl up and taking photos with the Windsor Castle in the background. And I just thought, very British patriotic Sikhs. You know, Indians, because of the empire, especially Sikhs who fought in the British Army with us, I always consider them like proper kind of patriotic English people, and they've been here for so many generations that they might as well be. And I got served by a nice Indian guy. There's a lot of Indian people around, actually. I haven't seen Indian people around in so long, actually. I think in Devon there's not many Indian people, but I always like them when I meet them, and there's a lot more of them around here. So especially Sikhs. They didn't have the orange turban though. There was a black turban. I don't know if you call it a turban, maybe it's not. And there's a purple one, but no one had the orange, and the orange is the coolest. You should see the pictures of. Just type in like Sikh on Sikhism on DuckDuckGo or something, and look for all the crazy. Some of them have enormous turbans, and they wear white, and they wear an orange turban, and they have loads of gold chains coming out of the turbans with different symbols on them. Try and find the pic of the guy who has that. It looks so cool, dude. It's like an attractive religion to me. I don't know. There's not many people around that I would really consider like old style English people, except for the odd few people here and there. I don't know how to explain that. It's mainly to do with it's mainly to do with the language barrier. Like the people who have come over here from different countries. You know, if they don't speak the language, this is a cliche, but it's true. If you don't come to a country to live, and you don't integrate and learn how to speak the language at the very least, as well as learning some of the history and defining yourself as British, or defining yourself as the country where you moved to. It's like if I went to Afghanistan and I wouldn't have to become a Muslim necessarily, but if I didn't like speak the language really well, and I didn't know some of the history of Afghanistan, I didn't speak the language in the street when I was about, like, make an effort and know some of the culture and like abide by the kind of lifestyle they have there, it would be very incongruent, and I'd be treated like as an outcast or someone who's not doing their bit. I don't know why I'm picking like fucking Taliban. This is okay. Maybe Afghanistan was a bad example, but you know, if you're going to become part of a country, and perhaps I'm a bad half Canadian because of this, but I don't actually want to go back to Canada because of Trudeau. I'd like to go back to see Kelowna, but while Trudeau's there, fuck that. But yeah, I don't know as much Canadian history as I should, perhaps. So maybe I'm not a very good Canadian. It's always good to like be a part of the country that you choose to live in, just in terms of being able to be talked to. Like if you're serving people in a shop or something, they understand what you're saying. Oh yeah, this was leading me to there was a voice announcer on the train, and the voice announcer from Exeter to Reading was a clear-voiced Englishy guy, and then as soon as I got on the train from Reading to Bracknell, which was meant to end up in London Waterloo, is this guy who, I assume he was a black guy because it did sound like a very thick African accent, and he was trying to speak English words because every now and then an English word would shine through, but mostly it was complete gibberish. And I think he was trying to read the stations that were coming up. He didn't even say Bracknell, he went like just like every now and then he'd say a word that you'd understand, but most of it was this complete gibberish. It wasn't his language and it wasn't our language. It's just like, how can this work? Anyway, here's a ramble. That girl though was so cute in Pizza Express. I think her name was Jo. She had short red nails and she was like skinny and tall and had some kind of European accent, Czech or Polish or something. Couldn't work it out, but yeah, she's very disarming. She actually asked my name, and because she was so kind of disarming in the way she said it, I went like, just Tom. Like, I don't normally like giving my name out to people, especially when I'm serving customers. I'd rather be called shopkeeper, especially because a lot of customers you serve, you don't know their politics, and obviously I work near where I live, so I don't really want them knowing about my family or my house or where I come from when they're in easy reach of me, and when they find out my politics are probably the exact opposite of theirs, and I'm just being civil to them to make a transaction happen, you know, money from the dumb sort of thing. The concept of identity, like just the identity of like even the name you've been given or your birth certificate, or like when someone takes your name, like a police officer or something, it can just be used against you, just like someone knowing who you are and knowing how to find you and putting you on a registration database and bringing your name up in connection to other things to do you over for all sorts. Yeah, having an identity is like, it's such a pain in the ass sometimes. I sometimes prefer the name I chose for myself online, even though I'd kind of like that to be temporary and transient as well. What is this in the tea stash they give you? What is this? Millac Made. Tastes like fresh milk. Long life skimmed milk with non-milk fat. What does that even mean? I don't trust that.
Thank you for watching.